Hello world, it's Birdo Prey 5, Qapla, and welcome to my review for Godzilla vs. Kong. And yes, unfortunately, there is going to be spoilers. I just don't know how to review this movie without spoilers. If you want the spoiler-free review, it wasn't bad for a monster movie. And had a lot better lighting than the previous Godzilla film. Other than that, there's going to be spoilers. So I'm sorry, but tune out now if you don't want them. Okay. If you're coming in to watch, Godzilla vs. Kong, you probably realize that you're not looking at a award-winning script. Okay, I'm not looking for the best dialogue. I'm not looking for outstanding character development. I'm not looking for believable physics. That said, the script quality of this movie in places literally equals Sharknado. Okay? Sharknado, or perhaps one of the many sequels of Sharknado. The script is basic, not all of it, but there are parts, especially when and you'll know if you watch it. But the daughter talks to the father, who's in charge of the Monarch Project, and she's like, "Dad, Godzilla helped us. How are you? Why are you turning his back on him?" And the father's like, "Because beasts are like people. They change their minds sometimes." Like honestly, it was Sharknado level script writing. And it was by far not the worst part of the movie. Yes, it's a woke movie. No big surprise there. The men, especially the white men, are the villains for the most part. Okay, you got one guy who's a good guy, but he's treated as expendable. Women make all the hard decisions. The most important human character in the movie is, of course, a little girl. And what did this little girl do? And again, this is a heavy spoiler. This little girl taught King Kong how to talk. Not talk voice, but talk in sign language, because this little girl happened to be deaf. And she happened to know sign language. And she had the time to secretly teach King Kong sign language without even her own mother knowing that she did this. How does the mother leave her daughter with King Kong for the hours a day that would be necessary to teach Kong to be completely fluent in what I assume is American Sign Language? It boggles the mind. But it's a monster movie, so you're like, whatever. Okay, we're just coming here because we want to see King Kong fight Godzilla, and it does that. In fact, you get at least 3 scenes. Although really the last one I'd argue is more like one long scene. They want to call it 3 scenes, whatever. We get 2.5 scenes of serious Kong vs. Godzilla action. In addition, we get Kong vs. random monsters, Godzilla vs. random monsters, and then the surprise to me, but apparently other people saw it in some trailer that I didn't see, Mecha Godzilla. Yeah, Mecha Godzilla is in this movie. He's kind of the surprise at the end, and once you see Mecha Godzilla is in the movie, you know what's going to happen. Because I got to tell you, from the first time Godzilla fights Kong, you realize Kong doesn't stand a chance. Okay, Godzilla is 10 times more powerful than Kong. And as much as I wanted Kong to win, it was clear he was outclassed. And it just, there was no way it was going to happen. Now, they do take Kong to the center of the hollow earth. And yes, the earth is hollow in this reality, and physics don't work like physics we know work. Gravity, they have no concept of how gravity would work inside the earth. Don't even think about it, because you will hurt your brain if you attempt to make sense of the reality they've created. But apparently, somehow, inside the earth is like the Genesis cave from Star Trek 3, complete with its own light source, which is a secret energy source, which the big bad company, Apex Company, needs to steal in order to bring Mechagodzilla up to full power. Now, how do they steal it? They send in a robot to cut out this little piece of it, but they can't actually transport the piece up to the surface. So all they do is like scan it and then download the upload to the surface, as if there's somehow a complete Wi-Fi network from the core of the earth to the surface of the earth in Hong Kong. And this is before Godzilla uses his atomic breath to bore a hole from Hong Kong to the center of the earth. Like I said. Okay, so they get to the center of the earth with Kong, which they had to get to him. They had to bring Kong to Antarctica and then convince him to crawl through a hole all the way to the center of the earth. Now, they do that once they find out the girl taught him sign language. They tell her to tell Kong that, hey, his family might be down that hole, because he doesn't want to go down the hole. He just rather sit in the ice and freeze, until the girl tells him, like, hey, you might. She's honest. She doesn't say there is. She says you might have some family down that hole. And then he decides to go down that hole. And even though it should be like, a 5,000-mile journey to the center of the earth, or 2,000? Alexa, what's the radius of the earth?
The Earth's radius is 3,959 miles.
3,000. So 3,900. So it's 3,000 miles. A 3,000-mile journey straight down a hole. It takes, 10 minutes to get there. And there's a gravity inversion. And that gravity inversion should happen kind of at the center of the earth, but it happens like 50 feet into the hole for reasons. And while Kong can make it through the gravity inversion just fine, apparently humans can't. So they have to be in a special spaceship, or else they die. And then the center of the earth, of course, is basically jungle, and all the big animals rule down there. Of course, there's no other Kongs, there's no other Godzillas, but there's random big animals, and Kong is happy. Kong is home. He's king of that jungle. He kills some other big animals, drinks the blood right out of their skulls, because I guess that's what King Kong does. And then Kong finds his own Mjolnir, his own Thor sword. Apparently, at the center of the earth, somebody built these giant big doors with monkey hands, so he knew exactly where to push to open the doors. And inside, he found this really cool battle axe that draws power from the center of the earth. And so he's able to we think, maybe with this battle axe, he has some chance of winning against Godzilla. Because in the first fight, where Kong is tied down on a Navy fleet in a ship, and they're shipping him to Antarctica, and Godzilla just comes. And by the way, Godzilla comes in the first 10 minutes of the movie, 15 minutes of the movie, and destroys 6 or 7 U.S. Navy vessels. Thousands and thousands of U.S. sailors are dead, their bodies, their ships sinking to the bottom of the ocean. And nobody cares. They are never mentioned again. God knows how many thousands of sailors died to bring Kong to the Antarctic, and it's ignored. It is ignored. Nobody tries to save them. There's no lifeboats. There's no emergency. They don't call for help. They don't call for backup. These ships, destroyers, battleships. I know we don't even use battleships. They look like battleships. Maybe they were destroyers. Submarines, aircraft carriers, torn apart, sinking to the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, and nobody cares about them. Kong makes it to the Antarctic, goes down the hole, and he finds this battle axe. So we're like, okay, well, at least he's got a chance against Godzilla. Now, Godzilla conveniently decides to bore a hole to the center of the earth from Hong Kong, because he's in Hong Kong because he senses Mechagodzilla. So he's there to go fight Mechagodzilla. Then he realizes Kong is in the center of the earth. The first time he beat Kong, they just played dead. So Godzilla, for whatever reason, Godzilla kills all the other monsters. But because Kong decided to play dead, or, just didn't have the strength to keep fighting, Godzilla let him go. But then he senses Kong is at the center of the earth, gets pissed, blows a hole to the center of the earth using his atomic breath. And Kong then jumps and, goes all the way up the hole, climbing another 3,000 miles out of the earth to emerge in Hong Kong, just in time to fight Godzilla for a second time, this time with his battle axe. So they fight, and they claim the second round goes to Kong. But I really don't see it, because there's an immediate third round where Godzilla then defeats Kong and his battle axe. And they have to restart Kong's heart. Luckily, the spaceship that they used to get to the middle of the planet had a really big electric charge, so they used that to restart Kong's heart. Anyway, in a plot twist anybody could see coming, Mechagodzilla gets his full power from the middle of the earth, and you realize he's more powerful than Godzilla, but you realize, oh, Kong's alive, so what's going to happen? Kong and Godzilla are going to team up, and the real end of this movie is Kong and Godzilla become friends, and they fight and destroy Mechagodzilla, who is using the oh my god, the three-headed monster from the, oh my god, who's the three-headed monster? Gordita? No, Gordita is a Taco Bell dish. But the three-headed monster, who was killed in the previous movie, well, they've still got his skulls being used to run to run an AI, and the AI is what was controlling Mechagodzilla, except it had a human host. But once the Mechagodzilla gets the full strength, then the AI just kills the human host and takes over. So it's really the mind of the three-headed monster in Mechagodzilla. So Mechagodzilla becomes evil and starts destroying everything. So Godzilla and Kong have to team up to destroy Mechagodzilla, who is really the brain of the three-headed monster. And they do. Big surprise. They tag team, and the combination of Kong and Godzilla take out Mechagodzilla. Kong is ripping arms off. He's using his battle axe. Now his battle axe gets recharged, from the center of the earth, or if Godzilla fires his nuclear breath at the battle axe, that charges it too. So Godzilla charges the battle axe, and Kong gets the final blows on Mechagodzilla. And then Godzilla and Kong kind of have a last standoff. And despite us being told the entire movie, Kong bows to no one. Kong realizes that Godzilla is the more powerful being and kind of bow. He doesn't physically bow, but he puts down his weapon and respects that Godzilla is the king of the monsters. Kong is like his second place new best friend, but clearly he is the Starscream to Megatron. He can't take over. Godzilla's got him beat, dead to rights. So basically, Godzilla decides to take over. Godzilla is the protectorate of the surface of the earth. First everybody was pissed. They thought Godzilla was attacking humans, but then they realized Godzilla was only attacking because he was provoked by this company called Apex. Meanwhile, Godzilla destroys a large part of the city of Pensacola, Florida. And then Godzilla, Kong, and Mechagodzilla all fight in Hong Kong, which has a population of over 7.5 million people, had no time to evacuate. And by my very, very, very conservative estimates, at seeing the number of buildings destroyed, the nuclear breath of Godzilla take out structures for miles and miles, I would say there was no less than 100,000 people killed, and very possibly 1 million people killed. Because I don't know how many people we've been killed in Pensacola, Florida, plus the thousands of U.S. Navy sailors who were killed. But just the civilians in Hong Kong alone, I would say probably an easy 100,000 people there killed, and possibly 10 times that amount. And it's never talked about. It's ignored. It's ignored. Nobody cares. Nobody cares that hundreds of thousands of people were killed in in this movie. It's like everything's going to go back to being okay because, hey, we got Kong to the center of the earth and he's happy, and Godzilla's happy, and the guy who was in charge of Apex, Mechagodzilla, killed him first. So there's really nothing to do there. Of course, the person who was knew all along was the Monarch guy's daughter, and she was helping this crazy loon podcaster guy who had all these conspiracy theories, but and he was there, and then her friend came along for comedic value. It's the more I talk about it, the more ridiculous this movie is. They didn't have to give us an origin to King Kong. I was happy to believe King Kong always existed on Skull Island. Okay, that he was just a genetic anomaly, that all of Skull Island was a genetic anomaly. They didn't have to bring in this hollow earth theory to explain where all these guys came from, but they felt like they had to. I mean, physics doesn't work like that. Energy doesn't work like that. And at the very end of the movie, in the middle of Hong Kong, which, by the way, the daughter gets to Hong Kong because Apex in Pensacola has a secret underground tunnel that moves at thousands of miles an hour, basically Elon Musk's Hyperloop. has already been invented, and it travels from Pensacola direct to Hong Kong, and they accidentally get put on as cargo as they were searching the ruins of Pensacola for clues. They get shipped off to Hong Kong, arrive in Hong Kong just as Godzilla and Kong do, and then the father gets flown over to Hong Kong. He has no idea where the daughter is. He left the daughter in Pensacola, Florida, thinking she was still there. And then at the end of the movie, the daughter and the father just happen to run into each other in Hong Kong. Uh, and just as much as like you had less of a chance of running into each other at a crowded TGI Fridays, but in the entire city of Hong Kong or island of Hong Kong or whatever it is, they just happen to run into each other, walking by each other on the street in the midst of the destruction that would literally be like 1,000 9/11s. And they just happen to walk past each other on the streets of Hong Kong to reunite for the end of the movie. It's absurd. Everything about this movie is absurd. And I question myself, am I being too hard on this? It's a King Kong versus Godzilla movie. Okay, what's good? The fights. The fight scenes versus King Kong and Godzilla are great. They're lit great. They're easy to see. You get a real sense. I felt bad for Kong. King Kong was like I don't know that he was the main actor of the movie, but to me he was the lead of the movie. Godzilla not as much, but I had emotions for Kong. Now their scale changed from scene to scene. Sometimes King Kong could fit on the bow of a mid-sized cargo ship. Other times, he was the exact same height as Godzilla. And Godzilla, at times, one wipe of his tail could destroy 3 Navy ships in a single swipe. At other times, his tail was, the length of a single building. When Kong and Godzilla fight in Hong Kong, there's times that they're smaller than buildings, and then there's times that they're as tall as the tallest buildings. Clearly, they cared more about how it looked than the actual physics, or to keep an actual scale. And I understand, listen, it's got to be really hard when you have 2 monsters that you've already decided are basically different size. Now you want to make them the same size to fight each other, and they've got to fight through, oceans and ships, and they've got to be tied down to a ship, but then they've got to be able to jump from ship to ship, and of course that not destroy the ships when they're not intending to, but then destroy the ships when they need to. It's a movie you got to turn your brain off. And I fear that I personally have lost that ability. And I feel for myself. I actually feel bad for myself, because I know a lot of people can look at this movie and say, this is really good. This is a really good King Kong versus Godzilla movie. And I know on one hand it is. I remember watching King Kong as a kid. I didn't give a shit as to what size the monsters were from one scene to the other. I don't know if they changed size. They probably did. I mean, but now, as somebody who's been jaded and like looking for problems, and they don't even try to hide it. It takes away a bit from the movie. Not all of it, granted. I'm not going to say this movie's a 2 because the monsters don't match the size and because gravity doesn't work like that. No, it's not a 2, it's not a 3, it's not a 4, it's not even a 5. Okay, what I'm debating is whether this movie was, a solid 8 or if it's closer to a 6. And I have to be honest, I feel like it's a 6.5. My final score is a 6.5 out of 10. If you're coming into this movie, you have to know what you're coming in for. You're coming in to see King Kong battle Godzilla, then they fight, then they decide to become friends, and then they both decide to fight Mecha Godzilla, and they win. And everybody lives happily ever after, except for the hundreds of thousands of people who die that you never care about again. That's what it is. That's just the way it is. I hope I didn't ruin the movie for you. And if you're a Kong vs. Godzilla fan or a Kong or Godzilla fan, if you like Skull Island, if you like the Godzilla movies, then yeah, watch it. If you have HBO Max, I mean, it's not free. You're paying for HBO Max, but if you have HBO Max, you should watch it. If this was only in the movie theaters, I would not pay money to go to the movie theater and watch this personally. But if it was me and a few friends and we had nothing else to do, maybe we'd go see it. Sure. But the reality is, in 2021, on the verge, possibly on the edge of COVID, it's airing on HBO Max, and for 14 or 15 bucks a month, and you're gonna get a couple of movies a month. Yeah, I'd watch it. I'd watch it on HBO Max. It's worth it on a rainy day or a day you're just bored. Go for it. I hope it helps. I know I don't want to get your hopes too high, but I don't want to get your hopes too low either. It's worth a watch. Just don't get too excited, and please try to keep your brain activity at a minimum. If you think too much, it's gonna fall apart. So with that, I hope you enjoy it. Comment, like, subscribe if you want to see more videos. And I'll talk to you guys again soon. I have some actual Star Trek videos coming up, and I hope you'll enjoy those a lot more than these non-Trek related videos. But Qapla all, bird out.